Hey everyone, I'm Annie Dickerson, and on behalf of the entire Goodegg Investments team, I wanted to welcome you to this episode of the Life and Money Show, the show where we talk about everything from investing to financial freedom to parenting, travel, creating a life by design, and everything in between. And of course, I'm here with my amazing co-host, Susan Elliott. Susan,
good morning.
Tell everyone, hello. Tell everyone what we're going to be talking about today.
I think you and I are both a little bit on fire because this was like such a fun interview for us. It's like a little bit of like, oh, this is our tribe. This is our people. And so we have Stephanie Wong on the podcast today talking about her new book, Cancel the Filter. She's been on the show in the past. I actually listened to that interview back when I was learning all about real estate investing. So I remember her on way back then and got to talk to her today, which was fantastic. So it's great to follow up with people when you've had an interview with them in the past and see how that journey has changed and where they are now and what led them to doing the kinds of things that they're getting involved with here. So we talk about all kinds of things, working, professional careers as doctors. We talk about being parents, motherhood. We talk about being in the public eye, for instance, having a podcast, being in the media, having just a social media channel in general. I think all of us are like a little bit in the public eye these days because of our social media feeds. And then the intersection of all of that, and I think that's one thing I love about this show. I love recording interviews with people and chatting here with you, Annie, is because we get to touch upon all those intersections of life and money. I mean, life is the big thing. And then how does money kind of integrate into all of that and how it all comes out at the end, and like, what is really the big meaningful point here? And in her final questions at the end, I just love, it's like almost brought a tear to both of our eyes, what she talked about as far as like her big meaning moment.
Yeah, it's such a juicy conversation. We cover so much, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper. But first, for the listener, you'll hear later in the show, Stephanie mentions that a key resource that she used in her journey to learn more about investing and finances on her path to invest in syndications. A key resource there was our free course called Passive Real Estate Investing 101. And for Stephanie, she kind of went into it having very little experience investing in real estate and coming out the other end feeling very confident, which led her to eventually invest in real estate syndication. So if that sounds like where you are, if that sounds like where you might be in your journey, you might consider signing up for the course as well. As we mentioned, is completely free. You're going to get 7 emails, 1 email a day for a full week that will cover all the ups and downs, the ins and outs of what you need to know about investing in real estate syndications. To get that, you can go to goodegginvestments.com/free course. Well, with that, let's go ahead and dive into our conversation with Stephanie Wong. Stephanie, welcome back to the show. We're thrilled to have you. Thanks for being here with us today.
I'm so excited. It's been great to catch up a little bit before the show. And Annie, your energy just inspires me. And Susan, thank you so much for joining this little trio today.
Yeah,
it's kind of a power trio today.
That's right. Well, Stephanie, I know we originally had you on the show way back in episode 121. So for our listeners, I know if you're new to Stephanie and all the amazing things that she does, definitely recommend going back and listening to that episode because we cover a whole lot about mental health, about motherhood in that conversation, which will add some more color even to this conversation we're about to have. But Stephanie, for those who might not know you yet, tell us a little bit give us some of the highlights of your story and also what led to you writing your book, Cancel the Filter, which you just published within the last few months.
So, hi, I'm a clinical psychologist, and what inspired me to work in mental health was I saw that there was a stigma in the Asian American Pacific Islander community at a very young age. In high school, we lost a student to suicide, and our high school is a magnet school with the majority being AAPI descent. And so I noticed that a lot of resources, or any resources, were really shared with us. And I thought, well, what's going on here? Mental health back in the day was not a thing that we talked about. I'm hopeful because it's more widespread and it's discussed. But back then, I was like, I could be kind of a bridge between the community and the mental health profession. And in my book, which we'll talk about, that had its own journey to become a psychologist. But I never thought that I would get into something like podcasting, having my own practice, being an investor, even. And Annie and Julie's book and free course really changed my life, as I said on the previous episode, because I am always looking for trusted people to really educate people, and women especially, about ways to build wealth and generational wealth. So that was one way that I started diversifying my portfolio. But I mean, young me, what is real estate syndication? I'm just trying to make it through college. I'm just trying to make it day to day. I mean, that hasn't changed too much, but thank God I'm done with college. But it really led me into podcasting and meeting wonderful people, connecting with wonderful people. And that led me to write my book, which we can talk more about, of course. But I never thought that this would be where I would end up at this point in my life.
Yeah, I think so many of us reflect on that. I'm in a very similar boat with you, that I thought that I never would have guessed 10 years ago that I'd be right here. But it's the doors that open in front of us that we walk through, I think, that allows us to say, like, okay, this could be me. I can move into this. Well, how has motherhood as a specific identity kind of reshaped your other types of identities? Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I have 2 daughters, and so it makes me more persistent and determined to make some changes in this world, because I won't have to deal with it when I'm gone. And unfortunately, or fortunately, they are the generation that really has to live with a lot of the consequences of many of our behaviors. And so that's really been my North Star after giving birth. And there's many times I wanted to quit podcasting or quit doing some of these other projects. And my kids' response always is, "You're going to quit? You're going to give up the podcast?" And so at that point, I didn't really understand how much it meant to them to see me do something. And I think that's part of it, is when you do something different, it feels really, really, really tough. And at the same time, I was talking to someone recently, and they said, we need proof that it could be done. And so to some extent, I'm like, I'm their living proof. And while I go through my struggles, like I said, 20 seconds, losing my shit all the time, I have to stay true to that no matter what kind of criticism comes my way, because being in the public is not easy. And we can talk about that too. You know, I have a message that I would like to share that hopefully makes a small dent in change.
Yeah. Well, tell us more about your book. Tell us more about, the struggles of it all, or, I mean, even just the publishing process, for instance, or just like what you wanted to get out of putting that message out into the world.
I might have one right here. Still that.
Yeah, show us the hardcover. We'll link to it in the show notes as well. So cancel the filter.
There's a little bit of glare, but cancel the filter. And it's awkward to have my face there. But my friend designed it because there's like part of it is erasing the filter, right? And showing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very raw book. So people thinking that it's like a theoretical book about psychology, and you've seen my language. So that's why I didn't go traditional and submit it, because I've gotten feedback like, please, we have to change the cuss words. And I have a potty mouth. And I was like, losing your shit does not have the same impact as losing your mind. While it's the same intent, I don't think it fully captures our day to day. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go kind of the hybrid self-publishing route. And I worked with Munn Avenue Press. I mean, it's self-published, but they really helped me kind of package it and put it all together. The point of it is really thinking about, how did I get here? I talk about my family history. My grandma was illiterate. She came to this country. She worked 14-hour days, a lot of similarities with immigrant stories. And now I'm in a very different place than when she came to this country. So I set that up in that way because people, like you mentioned, look at you and think, oh, this person is doing so well and didn't have any struggles. And that is definitely not the case. And I kind of wanted to pull back the curtain behind the scenes of, well, it was tough to even decide to have children for me and my husband. And mostly because at a young age, I thought, well, I have to choose my career over having children. It's going to limit my opportunities. Or, of course, reality, we have to give birth. And,
yes,
that
this is work that I'm going to have to do.
Yes, we have to kind of be, as my friend says, feeling like cows, because if you breastfeed, you're literally at the mercy of your child. And so I talk about that decision-making process. And at first I kind of resolved like, hey, I'm not going to have kids. I'm just going to power through my career. And then my closest friend in graduate school had a child, had a baby, and I saw proof. I could see proof that you could have a career and parent and love a child and really raise that child with kindness. And so that changed my mind about that decision. Now, again, there's so many struggles along with that. So many of my grad classmates that were a year above me had kids and were writing their dissertation. And I just admire them so much. I didn't do that. But one of the big stories that I opened the book with, a teaser, is that I thought I have to pass this first licensure test for psychology before I had my child. And my water was leaking and I didn't know it. And because the movies, you're like, it just, it breaks, it's right there. And, no, I was seeing patients. I called into the hospital and I was like, hey, this is happening. And they're like, oh, just come in and get it checked. And I was like, no, I'm going to go home and eat dinner. I'm going to finish up with my patients. And then I go back home. I go in. Of course, my nerdy self brings my study materials to the hospital. They're examining me. I'm looking at those. And I said, oh, it looks fine. Let me run one more test. And then they're like, we have to admit you. And I was like, huh?
You're like, no, that's not timing for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Premature, had the whole NICU experience. And so my whole point in that story is like, we have birthing plans and they're just plans. Things don't work out the way that you envision them.